friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a bit of a different video for you guys. I'm not going to be creating a card, but instead I'm going to be doing a comparison video on the different Copic marker families of gray tones. So you can see on my Copic marker coloring chart that I now have all 4 families of the grays that are available in Copic markers. And they're all each a little bit different and unique. It's a little hard to tell though from just coloring in tiny squares on a chart. So I'm going to be, doing a little bit of a more in-depth coloring in just a minute. So these are the cool grays. These are the first set that I started out with. It doesn't matter which family you pick to start out with, but you do want to have a wide range of shades. You're going to be coloring objects that are white, objects that are gray, and objects that are black with your gray markers. So you do need to have a wide range from the very lightest to the darkest that you can get. Now, you don't need every single one. You'll notice that I always skip a marker. So here are my warm grays. These are the 2 collections that I had for the first 10 years of Copic coloring. And you can see I skip all the even numbers and I just do the odds because I feel like that is enough of a range. I don't need the tones that are in between. They're a bit too similar for me to need all of them, in my opinion. So next I added the toner grays. These were just added to my collection last year and I have been really loving them. You can see that they are a bit different from the cool grays and they are a bit different from the warm grays. So they are kind of like a middle option to me. I find that they place somewhere in between both of those warm and cool tones. And my newest collection is the last collection, the neutral grays, and these also are a bit different to the toner grays, although I would say they are the most similar to the toner grays. You can see they're different from the cool as well. They're a little warmer than the cool, but they're also way cooler than the warm. So like I said, it doesn't really matter which collection you pick to start out with. You just want to get a wide range in that set so you can really take full advantage. So the image I will be coloring with all 4 sets of families is this little gorilla from the Hello Bluebird Word Buddies Jungle. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a pen and label each of the gorillas. So I'm going to do the cool and then the warm, then the toner, and then the neutrals. And I chose this image because it's going to give me complete from the lightest lights to the darkest darks all in one image. So I thought that would be a good one to showcase the differences between each family. So I'm going to start with my entire collection of cool grays. For the lighter parts of the gorilla's body, I'm going to be using the lightest 3 shades, which will be C0, C1, and C3. And then for the darker parts of the body, I'll be using the darkest 3 shades, C5, C7, and C9. And then on the belly area, I'm going to do like the whole range. So we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I'm starting with the face, the ears, the little hand, and the feet. And I'm adding some shadow with that C3 on the left side of the face, and then at the base of the hands and the feet and the ears. And then I blended that out with the C1 and use the C0 for the highlight. And then I'm doing a second layer on the lighter areas of the body. This is something I often like to do. I most often do 2 layers on my coloring. It just really beefs up the saturation and smooths out your blend. And I wanted it to look as realistic as how I normally color. So that's what I'm going to do. Then for the darker areas, I'm going to start with the C9 and lay in my shadows wherever I think those should go. So on the bottom of the legs, on the far arm that is mostly blocked by his body. And then I'm also adding a shadow on the underside of the arm that is forward because I want to separate that from the rest of the body. And then I'm going to come in with the C7 and begin to blend that out. You can see that that C9, where I laid that down, that is a very dark marker. It is almost black. I actually do own the 110 marker, which I think is called Special Black. I almost never use it. If I really need something to look black, I use the C9 because it's nearly there and I feel like it has more depth than just a flat black. In fact, that C9 is so dark that a lot of times when I'm coloring blacks with the cool grays, I will actually start with the C7 and use that as my darkest, but I wanted to show you this entire range, so I went ahead and added that C9 in there, and it does add something. So here is where I mentioned that I'm going to do the full range. Right where the C5 ended, I'm going to come back in with that C3, and then the C1, and then the C0 to finish off the gorilla's belly. So you'll see the entire transition in that area there. So after the C's, the next gray family that I added to my collection were the W's. And I felt like with the C's and the W's, I had such a nice range of grays that I really didn't need any of the other tones. And for 10 years, I really felt that way. In fact, if you watch some of my older videos, I may even mention in those videos that I really didn't feel the need to add in the other gray families because these two really gave me a lot of options. In fact, I would say, spoiler alert, but I would say that if you're going to stick with just two of the families, I would probably still recommend the cool and the warm because they are the most different from each other, I feel, and I do think that that gives you a lot of options. I tend to use the cool grays when I'm coloring inanimate objects like metal things, like a street light or a metal bucket or a lantern, anything like that, you know, maybe black stripes on a lighthouse, you know, buildings, things like that. And then I tend to use the warm grays for critters, but especially the lighter colored critters, because I do feel like the cool grays actually suit the critters that are supposed to look black better than the warm ones. And you know, you guys can judge for yourself as I continue to color this image, but I find that I just prefer the cool grays, that they look more black to me, where the warm grays look a little bit more like maybe like a beige. They do have like a brown undertone to me, so like more of a dark beige, I would say. So maybe I would use them for sloths or any critters that I felt would be more warm toned, like an armadillo or something like that. But anything that would be really, really black, like a skunk or the gorilla, which is, you know, silverback gorilla, I would tend to pick the cools if I were going between these two families. So I'm going to continue to finish this guy. I'm working on the belly area now, bringing that color forward and finishing him off. So you can kind of see now that there is a really big difference between these two gray families. You can't mistake one for the other by any means. But like I said, neither one is wrong or right. It's personal preference. So that's why I created this video, so that you can decide for yourself which families you're most drawn to. So after 10 years of just using the cools and the warms, I did finally add in the toner grays. And once I did, I just thought, oh my gosh, what was I doing for all these years not adding this to my collection? I fell instantly in love. I would say that the toner grays have become my favorite. And it is because they do seem to be that perfect balance between the cool and the warm. When I look at them just by themselves, I'd say that they're a little bit more cool toned than warm toned, but wait to see for yourself once the image is complete. Yeah, I think the toner grays are really beautiful. So if you were to only get one of the families, you may want to start with the toner grays because they're kind of the best of both worlds to me. So again, I'm coloring the face, the ears, the hand, and the feet with those lighter 3 shades, T0, T1, and T3. And then with the darker 3 shades, I'm going to finish the rest of the body. Now you may have noticed when I was using the warm grays that I actually don't have the W0 marker. I have the W00 marker. I think the reason for that when I was picking up those markers was that they were out of stock of the W0s, so I just went with the W00. All the rest I have just the 0 and not the 00. And you can pick either one, honestly. I would say that you don't need both, especially if you're starting out. They're very similar, and like I said, I think it does you better to skip a number and that build up your collection that way, especially if you're starting out and you don't have, the resources to get all of the colors. I think when you skip one, you will still get a very nice range of shades that are going to work very well together and blend nicely. The reason that I went with the odds instead of the evens is because I did want to have the darkest shade included, and the darkest of each of those gray families is the 9. So that's why I just kind of picked the 9 and then skipped down every other one. And then I also wanted one of the lightest shades, which is why I also added in either the T0 or the T or the W00 in that case. So I'm going to finish up the belly of this gorilla, and the reason I didn't start out coloring the belly with all the other lighter parts of the body is that all the other parts are kind of separated by lines, where this part of the body, the armpit area, kind of goes into the belly area without any line of demarcation. So I just wanted to create a nice smooth blend going from darkest to lightest, which is how I prefer to color. So the last family of grays that I added to my collection were the neutral grays, and I really didn't think I needed these, but I had a couple comments from subscribers telling me that they had them and really liked them, so I decided to go ahead and bite the bullet and try it out for myself. So I haven't used them all that much. In fact, I think I've only used them in one video previous to this one. So I'm still kind of figuring out what instances I might like to use them. But I am glad that I did add them to my collection eventually. I don't know. When you're starting out, I feel like there are so many other beautiful colors that I would rather have in my collection than all the grays. But now that my collection is fairly nearly complete, I have almost all the markers that I really would like to have. I definitely don't have all of the markers, but I don't think you need all the markers. I really don't. But anyway, once my collection was getting full, I was like, okay, now I will go back and start adding in some of these other tones that are useful for a lot of things. There are a lot of objects that we color in various shades of white and gray and black, like I mentioned earlier. So I do think it's nice to have the variety, but I don't think you need to have it to start out. I just want to make that clear. So don't feel like you have to run out and bust your budget buying every family. I'm creating this video for you so that you can kind of pick and choose and see which ones you like the best and see if you want to add any more to your collection. So I'm going to finish up coloring this little gorilla in exactly the same way that I did on all the others. I'm putting my shadows in the exact same places. I'm doing 2 layers on the lighter parts of the body, only 1 layer on the darker parts of the body, just because I'm using those 9s, which are so deeply saturated that I really don't feel that you need the second layer to add that level of saturation that I like to have in my coloring. So there you have it. There are all 4 gorillas colored in each of the families that are available in the gray Copics. So let me know down in the comments which one is your favorite. I would say maybe the teas still. I really love those toner grays. I do think they are the perfect blend between the cool and the warm. But I would also say that if you're starting out, I would still recommend going with the C's and the W's if you plan to get 2 sets, just because they give you the most variety for different kinds of objects to color. But I do like the way the neutral gorilla turned out as well, so thank you to the commenters who suggested that I do add the neutrals to my collection. I'm glad that all of my Copic grays are now complete. I will probably never get the evens. I just don't feel the need for them, so I would rather get some brighter, more fun colors. But anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful and that it gave you some more ideas with how to build your collection. If you did like it, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. I post new ones every Monday and Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.